Welcome back to the Pet Stop. I'm Dr. Brian Voynick. We know it's not all about cats and dogs out there in the pet world, so we love the chance to share with you some of the more exotic animals people like to keep. And here to show us some of the rare reptiles in the pet trade is Danny Mendez. He's a zoologist and host of the internet radio show Urban Jungles Radio. Great to have you back.
Thank you, Dr. Voynick. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, you got a pretty cool water snake here,
I have an amazing water snake.
And all these guys that you have today are from Southeast Asia?
The majority of them are from Southeast Asia, different parts, obviously, Asia being a big country. This particular animal is very interesting in that it's basically unlike almost any other snake you've seen, I can almost guarantee. It's called an elephant trunk snake. And it's very interesting because it's a fully aquatic species.
Wow, yeah.
As you can see, it actually can hardly even crawl once it's outside of the water.
Interesting.
So it's completely lived its whole life in water. It's very well adapted to that kind of a lifestyle. As you can see, it's got a pretty unique face. He's got eyes that are located up the top part of the head, almost like a periscope kind of position, which allows them to see in the water better. And they've also got really amazing hunting skills, underwater skills.
And they're hunted for their skin, huh?
They are. They're used in the skin trade because that very unique skin that they have, and it's also where they get their name from because it does kind of have the appearance of an elephant trunk. It's very loose and very granular, and that skin actually has a purpose. It's very sensitive underwater at picking up currents.
We got a video too that you brought along.
Yes, I brought a video. You can see him feeding here on fish. They feed exclusively on aquatic organisms, and you can see they're really adept at hunting underwater. They can sense the slightest changes in currents all around them, and they can sense fish all around them without actually having to see it. They can smell the fish, and they can feel them swim by with their currents. Another interesting aspect you can see in the video is this snake is actually using his tail to hold on to one of the fish that he's captured. They can use different parts of their bodies to capture their prey. Just complete masters of the aquatic environment.
So it's not strangulation, it's just for prehension, huh?
Yeah, it's just really holding it in time, and you can see they're very quick about eating the fish, and they actually use the fish's swimming motion to help them swallow it. The fish actually ends up swimming into the snake's gut if they're not careful. So it's a really fascinating species for sure.
And our next one's a Rhino Rat Snake.
Yes, our Rhino Rat Snake is pretty much almost the opposite of what we have here. I brought a baby first.
This is fascinating. They actually have like a tusk, what appears to be a tusk.
Yeah, the name Rhino Rat Snake obviously comes from the fact that they look like they have a horn. Now I'm going to give you a baby to hold. Okay. This is a tiny little guy. He's only a month old.
Look at that.
You can see that really unique appendage on the face. Now, it'll be much more obvious with an adult. Let me grab an adult here for you. And this is actually the dad of the snake that you're holding. And you can
see that horn on him. That's interesting.
Really, a little wild here. Really beautiful snake, a very unique face, and it's much more pronounced in the adult. Now you notice also the change in color. The babies are born almost an olive brown, drab gray, and the adults become this spectacular green and blue that helps them camouflage actually quite well in the trees. Now we don't know what what purpose the horn serves. A lot of people think it helps to break up their outlines, so they're just more effective predators up in the treetops where they live.
They get up to 5 feet long, huh?
They do. This is actually a young adult animal. They can get to about 4.5, 5 feet long, and as you can see, they're pretty well suited to the arboreal lifestyle. They're very good climbers. They have prehensile tails and very strong upper body strength. So arboreal
meaning they're hanging out in trees, huh?
Yes, they live almost entirely up in the trees.
This baby's getting active.
It's starting to get a little squirmy there. It's okay. That's what they do.
And so we're talking about northern Vietnam and parts of China?
Yes,
for these guys?
Indochina, northern Vietnam is where they're from. Mountainous regions, they like it very cool and moist, very atypical for a reptile. These guys live up in higher elevations where it's a lot more moist and cooler, much cooler temperatures. This species does not tolerate high temperatures. It will kill them.
And they're nocturnal, huh?
They're actually diurnal. This is a diurnal species.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've got the round eyes, the pupils, which will tell you that. And they're very visual. They have great eyesight for snakes, and they rely on that eyesight for capturing their prey.
They're like rodents?
Rodents, birds, small mammals of other types like small opossums and things that live in their area. So they kind of have a varied diet. They're
what
very
do you feed them in captivity?
Rodents, strictly rodents.
Killed rodents?
Yes, pre-killed rodents. We don't feed anything live to the snakes. Obviously, too much of a risk and it's inhumane.
Can hurt them.
Yeah, so they feed live rodents. They actually start out, curiously enough, they start out feeding almost exclusively on fish when they're born. As babies, they'll eat guppies, and as they mature, they make the change over in their diets.
Now we've got an interesting blue tree monitor.
Yes, well, if you recall last time I was here, I brought a green tree monitor for you, and this is actually a little more of an uncommon species. It's isolated. It occurs only on a small little island called Batanta in Indonesia, and it's a really spectacular looking animal. And this is the smaller cousin of the Komodo dragon. It's really cool looking. I'm going to get him out here for you, see if you can cooperate.
And these guys can get a few feet
Yeah,
long,
this
huh?
is not too far off of the full size of the adult. They get about maybe 3 or 4 feet in total length. You can see it's a really spectacular. Yeah, and this is really cool because a lot of reptiles don't have, the tail is prehensile. Obviously, you can see that arboreal lifestyle, and the tail helps him get around. He's taking on a pretty good grip of my arm just for security purposes.
So they're only found on one island?
One small island in Indonesia. This is actually a species that was recognized fairly recently. They are still kind of working out where they come from. There's not a lot known about them. Hopefully we find out more about them before they're gone because the island is facing a lot of pressure from environmental issues as well. So.
Okay. So they're prehensile, meaning that the tail, they can literally support all of their body weight by just hooking around the limb of a tree.
Yeah, you can see they have these really strong tails. The tail's very articulate. It can grab onto almost anything and acts almost like a fifth appendage for the animal.
Interesting. Are they very rare in the pet trade?
They are very rare. This is one of the more rare monitors in the pet trade. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of captive breeding on them, so it's something we have to work on. So if you're going to obtain an animal like this, a very rare animal, you definitely should consider doing some kind of a breeding program to help alleviate the stress of the wild population.
Are they tough to keep?
They do have some demanding requirements. They have high humidity and high heat requirements. But if you can provide that initially, they make really great pets. They're very intelligent animals, not just your boring run-of-the-mill lizard.
What kind of longevity do you think they have?
They are actually been known to exceed 20 years in age very easily, and they breed well into their teen years. Unfortunately, once again, a species we don't know a lot about yet.
Are they aggressive at all?
No, this species is not. It's very flighty. It takes a long time for them to kind of come around. As I said before, they're fairly intelligent animals, so they learn to recognize their keepers after a while, and they learn to recognize routines and calm down a little bit. Yeah, this is basically your real-life velociraptor. Just like in the Jurassic Park movies, this is it. This is where they've gone. They've moved up into the trees in the little island Batanta.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. Okay, well, thanks so much, Danny. Great
to
have you on again.
It's a pleasure.
Cool critters.